Marvel, Daredevil, Born Again. I haven't covered any Marvel shows yet. They've been hit and miss, mostly just miss. I haven't enjoyed a lot of the Marvel shows, right? This one seemed a little different to me, okay? I had known that there was a bunch of Netflix shows that Marvel did before they, had Disney Plus come along. And then they canceled all those shows, and I had never seen any of them. And I had never seen Daredevil. So, in the last month, before this came out, I literally sat and watched all of Daredevil, even The Punisher as well, and I also watched The Defenders, which, watching The Defenders is probably a little weird if I haven't seen the other shows, but that's another story. But I watched all the Daredevil stuff in prep for this. So now I kind of got an understanding of where this story is setting place here after all those 3 seasons of Daredevil, very specifically. And then, of course, you're going to have Punisher in this season as well. So I needed to watch that as well. So I've got an understanding now of where we're at. And I so far think this is pretty good. I'm liking it so far. And I do really like the original show as well. Season 3 was really awesome. I loved it. Punisher season 1 was great. But Daredevil, Born Again, Marvel is finally bringing the character back into the MCU, and I don't know how heavily we're going to be getting more woven into the MCU now because, obviously the other one felt like it was kind of part of it, but it just never really fully felt connected. It was just kind of its own thing again. I don't know how much of its own thing this will be, but obviously they're bringing Kingpin back. Now I haven't watched things like Echo. I don't know what the hell happened with Kingpin in that. I have no interest in watching Echo. I heard he got shot at some point. Kingpin did. I don't know. I remember watching Hawkeye. I watched Hawkeye once, when it first came out. I hardly remember what happened. But this one, it just feels like it's more specifically referencing his past. Season 3 where Kingpin was defeated by Daredevil and his aftermath of that. So I don't know how much more referencing they're going to do in this show to Echo and little things like that these characters, especially Kingpin, have appeared in. I mean, She-Hulk, for example, Daredevil was in that. And I don't think they're going to bring that up at all. Thank God. I hope they don't, because She-Hulk was terrible. But this, so far, feels way different than whatever She-Hulk was, and I hope it keeps this tone. Because this, so far, it feels different, but it doesn't feel bad and disrespectful and terrible in comparison to the other, series. Basically, this is season 4, basically. It doesn't feel disrespectful, at least as of yet. Although they did open the series up with something very, very big, which a lot of people may not like. I don't know. But I'm not a comic guy, okay? So I don't know anything about the comics with Daredevil or really any Marvel comics. But I can give you my perspective on what I had seen, obviously, in the show, in this version of Matt Murdock with Daredevil. So let's get into it. Episode 1 and 2 have both released today. I'm going to give my review and thoughts here on Daredevil Born Again so far. I'm going to go through the season here, review each episode and see if it fits real well with the original show or if it just kind of falls apart. Because I haven't really reviewed Marvel shows. So let's try one. So we pick up with Matt Murdock, Foggy, Nelson, and Karen Page, all the big main characters of the original Daredevil series. And it's it feels like it's kind of relatively around the same-ish time, maybe a little after season 3. Foggy and Matt have now kind of kicked off Nelson and Murdock again. You got Nelson, Murdock, and Page, and they're kind of doing their new thing. And, you obviously, after season 3, you had Dex, you had Bullseye. That's his comic book name or whatever. He was the pretend Daredevil in season 3. Well, he is going to make an appearance here. So this was a rumor I had actually heard already. People had kind of speculated that this was going to happen, but they did it. They went ahead and did it. So Foggy is he's got a friend or something. I don't know what it was. I don't know if that's a character we've seen before, but he's calling him up and say, there's someone in my apartment. I think he's got a friend in his apartment. And there's someone after Foggy. So Matt runs off to go and help his friend, but quickly realizes, because Matt is, obviously, he can hear things real well. So he overhears that this person that is after, his Foggy's friend is actually after Foggy. We get the situation where the person after Foggy is Dex, Bullseye from season 3 of Daredevil, and he's got a grudge. He's got a grudge against Matt Murdock, Daredevil, and his friends, and he's going after his friends, and he decides to kill Foggy. So Foggy Nelson is immediately killed off in this new series. So he is shot down, and Matt chases after him as Daredevil. He gets into his suit real quick, chases after him, and there's this like big fight scene between them over and over. You could see that the fighting feels a little different now compared to like the Netflix one. It just feels almost more CG in a way. At some points it looks kind of cool. Like obviously it feels a little more cinematic. Like in different ways, it feels different. But you can tell it just like it looks more CG, and I will say the CG at some points always it does look a little weird at some points, but that's just after sitting and watching all these different seasons of Daredevil, I kind of feel that difference here now that like there's another way they're going about how these fight scenes are. Some of it does look really cool though, and I like how this fight scene did happen. So as he's going off to fight Bullseye, Karen is like at Foggy's side as he's bleeding out after being shot. And then we get a big whole fight scene on the rooftop. Matt pushes him off the roof. It almost makes it look like Matt killed Bullseye there. And he actually didn't. Bullseye just decides, Dex just decides to get up. So I guess he just didn't die. I don't know how he managed to survive just falling off the roof. But he was literally pushed off the roof, and he's literally in a pool of blood, and then he gets up. He like lives. So that was kind of strange, but I suppose it's just like a way to make sure Daredevil's not killing someone yet, because that would have also been a big thing of him just suddenly killing someone for the first time that we've seen him do right in the beginning of this. But Foggy is dead. Matt is like literally broken beyond belief, and that's kind of where they leave it. And Daredevil's mask is thrown off the roof. He throws his mask off the roof. The little horn breaks off during the fight. And we kick off this series with an absolutely devastating beginning. Because if you've watched the other seasons, Foggy is a massive character. Massive, significant character for Matt Murdock, Karen Page, and just the series in general. Those three characters are like the center of the Daredevil story here. Charlie Cox's Daredevil. And it's a big way to start it. So a year skips. Matt Murdock is now having like a different law office or whatnot with one of his friends, like a newer character that I don't think we've seen before. She was kind of like in the beginning, celebrating at the bar before all the chaos went down. But now Matt has got this new law firm office with his, some new lady friend of his. And Karen is actually not even living in New York anymore, and she's actually living in San Francisco or something, literally across the country. So in a way, it's almost like, in a way, it's kind of what he wanted for a while, is he wanted his friends to stay away from him because he would put them in danger. But Karen's now living outside of the city. She's no longer in the area. So after the whole Foggy thing, the whole thing basically split this whole thing apart now. Him and Karen don't even talk seemingly that much anymore. But they do come together in this one scene where Dex is being sentenced to prison for killing a bunch of the people in the building, the bar, and killing Foggy. So they're back for the actual sentencing and the trial there. So he is sentenced to, several counts of life in prison. I don't know if we're going to see him anymore this season. I don't know what they're going to do this season. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what I haven't kept up with any rumors or potential leaks that are maybe out there or not. But I don't know if he's going to be in the season anymore. But it was interesting that they just immediately threw him back in, and he's not even in prison, because I think at the end of 3, like him, Wilson Fisk, Vanessa Fisk, they all got arrested, and they all are just kind of like out now. They're all like out doing their own stuff. So I always find that weird. Like Wilson Fisk, even before this, he's always in and out of like prison all over the place. He's kind of like, I don't know. It's a weird perspective of some of these characters. But yeah, he is sentenced to life in prison, obviously, and who knows if he'll end up breaking out at some point again and becoming a villain in the series again. But obviously, we all know that the main series villain seems to be Kingpin once again. So speaking of Kingpin, it seemingly is that he has separated or distanced himself from Vanessa, which is kind of surprising to me because he was so adamant about being side by side with her in the main series, the original series. But he comes back to her in this series, and it's like she's been running the business basically while he's been gone off, like recovering from being beaten up by Daredevil so badly at the end of season 3. So he comes back to her, and now this marriage of his that he just had at the end of season 3 is now just kind of strained. So these two are not really on the best of terms. They're not like totally in hatred of each other, it doesn't seem, but they're definitely not on the best of terms, and that's going to be an interesting thing to see, especially at the end of episode 2. It was kind of funny to see how their relationship is weirdly developing here. But he does tell Vanessa that he's got a new plan. He's gonna do this a different way this time. He's gonna do things by the book. He's not gonna do all these like out in the open, like blatant crime boss type stuff. You know what? I'm gonna run for mayor of New York City. And we've all known, we've seen all the trailers and stuff, this is like his big thing that he's gonna do. He's gonna run for mayor of New York City, and it's not gonna take long for Matt Murdock to discover that he is running for mayor. So Wilson Fisk is back as this thorn in his side that just won't go away. Wilson Fisk is now going to run for mayor of New York City. And this is the weird thing about Wilson Fisk here back and forth here. It's like the end of season 3, he was like arrested, his whole thing was foiled, right? But he's always like in and out of prison. Now, I don't know if they've explained it in like something like Echo or even Hawkeye. I don't remember if they've explained why he's just like out now and he's just out and about doing things again. It's pretty well established in this that like people are well aware of his like potential to the public criminal stuff that he's done, but he seemingly always comes out on top and is like speaking to the public, and he gets the attention of the public and the goodwill of some people. And this time around he's got like a lot of people that hate him, but he's also got people that really, really support him, and he is now going to run for mayor and try to gain that support. So because of this, Matt actually just straight up goes and confronts Wilson, and they'd have a weird conversation at like a bar or a diner. And this is like the big scene that they've been throwing in the trailers like left and right, just like the one that we're like the most familiar with here going into this new show. It's such a weird conversation because we all know that they're like very, very opposing adversaries here. They both want to kill each other, even though Daredevil is desperately trying not to kill anyone. We all know he really just wants to end this stuff with Fisk. So they're very big adversaries. But there was like this deal at the end of season 3 where he's not going to go after Vanessa and whatnot if he leaves Foggy and Karen and them alone. Well, they have this conversation about Fisk says he's not involved in the death of his friend Foggy. It's just a really strange conversation. It's just awkward because of how big of enemies these guys are. Then you got Wilson talking about how, I will go after you if you continue to do your vigilante work, because I'm running on going against vigilantes. So, if you begin your vigilante work again, we may have some problems. And we all know, of course, this is Daredevil. He's going to end up doing it again. It's only a matter of time. Also in this show, Matt is getting a new girlfriend again because, it kind of makes sense. Karen's literally out of the state. She's across the country now. Things are strained with all that stuff. So he's getting a new girlfriend in this series, and it seems like she's going to play at least somewhat of a biggish role, especially with what happened in episode 2. But she's like a therapist, and he is the lawyer. They kind of got set up by his friend. So they got set up to meet up, and they start to date. So that's a new character they're having in there for Matt. And the end of the episode 1 is Kingpin wins the mayoral race, and now he becomes mayor of New York City, and that is a major problem for Matt Murdock. So we kick off episode 2 of Daredevil Born Again with Wilson Fisk kind of giving his speech. He's giving a speech like this: I am now the mayor. I'm going to go after vigilantes like a man who wears a skull. And that's obviously referencing the Punisher, who is in this season, so we're going to see him at some point. And there's also a reference to the Punisher a little bit later as well. And he also references Daredevil, of course. He knows who Daredevil is. So he's talking about vigilantes like Daredevil. And then he also mentions a vigilante, man that dresses up in a spider suit. So we got a Spider-Man reference, which is pretty cool. So it's like that quick little bigger tie now to the MCU. I feel like we're going to get little things like that now. I think they're going to try to make it more tied in this time. It's not going to be separate on Netflix anymore. It's going to be, I think it's probably going to be mostly its own thing, but I think they're going to definitely tie in a little more, I would assume. But yeah, they're now referencing Spider-Man in this series, which is kind of cool. So we got the introduction of this White Tiger character. I'm assuming it's a comic character. I'm not aware of it. Obviously, I haven't read the comics. I can't tell you anything about the character. It's another vigilante that we're being introduced to in this series. So he kind of fights off some like bad, dirty cops that were like going after this guy, and one of them gets hit by a train, and the guy they were attacking ran off. But now he's like, being accused of killing a cop, even though the cop, I think he kind of like stumbled in front of the train. And it's like a whole messy case. And that is something that Matt Murdock decides to take on because he can hear everything around him. So when he's like, there doing his cases, he overhears the cops like beating him in the room. He takes on the case, and now he's kind of trying to help out this Hector guy, get him free. So this, I don't know how big of a character this is, but I think the actor for this, weirdly enough, this is not like part of the show. The actor that's playing like this White Tiger guy is dead now. I guess he died after filming the show, which is really crazy. Like, I don't know, like, what if they left this character on a cliffhanger? I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think the actor for this guy died, which is kind of crazy. So this show's setting up a different type of journalism in a way. It's almost like more modern-ish, kind of. There's like this blog or whatever of this BB blog, whatever, on like the online digital thing. And she's like this lady is interviewing people on the street, talking about Wilson Fisk mostly. And she's kind of covering the mayoral race of Wilson Fisk, and then now him being mayor. And we learn that this is the niece of Ben Urich, who was the reporter of season 1 of Daredevil, who was killed by Wilson Fisk. That immediately makes this a really awkward and weird situation for Wilson, because like, well, this man, I killed him. I killed him, a while ago now, and now here is his family coming up and reporting on me once again. So I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know where that storyline is going to go, but I do find that an interesting little tie to season 1 there of I really liked Ben Urich. I was sad to see him get killed off so quickly. He was a really cool character. Cool to see him going around with Karen and just kind of like trying to go after Wilson. So yeah, tying the story back together with him all the way from season 1, kind of cool to see that. But yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with it necessarily. Maybe she could go after him, I don't know yet. But yeah, she is definitely being thrown into the mix there of covering Wilson's mayor run here. So we'll see what happens. In episode 2 though, one of the big things Wilson is dealing with is like the current police commissioner there in New York is very adamant about going after Wilson Fisk or Kingpin, because he's well aware of his criminal activities. He does not like the man at all, and he's very suspicious about what his intentions are in general, and he is determined to make Wilson Fisk have a very short term, and he's planning on going after him. And obviously Fisk is not going to like that, and we have a scene a little bit later where he's like threatening his family and whatnot, and he kind of gets the commissioner to I don't know if he's going to like back off or whatnot, but he's got some people out there who are well aware of some of the things he may have been doing, and they're going to try to stop him from taking such power here as the mayor now. So again, it's just so weird that he's the mayor now after so many times publicly being like shown as a major like criminal crime boss. I don't know. It's such a strange dynamic there. So as I mentioned earlier, Matt Murdock has a new girlfriend, and she is a therapist. So we got a scene with Wilson Fisk and Vanessa Fisk, and they are having some marriage issues. So they're going to like couples counseling, marriage counseling with, I haven't remembered her name yet, but she is Matt's new girlfriend, and she is the therapist. And this is a pretty significant role here. She is literally counseling Wilson Fisk and Vanessa Fisk. That can only go wrong, right? Like something's going to happen eventually. So we'll see where that goes, but they're obviously having issues, and I don't know where that's going to end up, but I can only see this going wrong for Matt. It's going to intertwine him in some crazy way, and he's not going to be happy about it. Maybe she'll end up dying at some point or something like that, just to even just irritate him just a little more. People just dying around him. I don't know. But it is interesting that now this other person tied to him is now interacting and dealing with Fisk. It's like he just cannot get away from him. Now, the end of the episode is Matt. He was tracking down the guy that the White Tiger was going and saving. So the guy that the White Tiger guy saved, he ran off away from the dirty cops. He ran off and he's been hiding. Matt ended up figuring out who he is. He went to his apartment and told him he gave him a warning that these dirty cops are coming. They're coming right now. They're coming up and they're going to try to kill you. So he tells him to run off, and then the cops enter the room. They start to push him around, push him against the wall, and we get this glimpse of one of the dirty cops' arms, and he's got like this Punisher logo on his wrist. Now, I'm assuming that's the Punisher logo. I mean, it's got the skull look and everything. I don't know where that's going to play in with Frank Castle. I know, obviously, we got John Bernthal coming back this season at some point. He's in the trailers, and that's why I did watch season 1 and 2 of Punisher. I'm looking forward to seeing Punisher again. It's going to be cool. I know they're going to do like a special, too. They just announced that. But Punisher is being teased a little bit, mentioned a little bit early on in this new show for Daredevil. I don't know what references and what this means for Punisher, but he does have the Punisher like logo skull on his wrist. Obviously, Matt is at one point going to go and talk to Frank and find out where he is. So I don't know how the story leads to that, but he's gonna go and look for Frank or run into Frank at some point. So we'll see. But Punisher is definitely not like gone from the story. He's getting teased. Eventually the guys get a little too rough for Matt, and the Daredevil unleashes Daredevil even though he doesn't want to. So he's like trying to hold back almost because he's scared now, because he's almost afraid that he is going to kill someone because of what happened with Foggy, where it seemed like he nearly killed Dex, throwing him off the roof. And he does not want to be a vigilante anymore. He hasn't been Daredevil for a year because of that situation, and he's trying to give it up again. He is always back and forth with this. He's always trying to give it up. Maybe he's always said that Daredevil is him, but then he's giving it up again. And yeah, it's pretty clear. Daredevil is him, and it's coming back out again. And it's only a matter of time until we got Daredevil action. So he unleashes Daredevil a little bit, knocks these two guys down pretty rough. And that's how the episode ends. So the action is beginning. Daredevil is coming back. So I thought these episodes were pretty good. It's not like fully action. There's a little bit more action in the first episode, especially at the beginning there, that beginning scene with Bullseye. But these first two episodes were a really big setup for the plot in general of where Wilson Fisk is becoming the mayor. Setting up this like White Tiger thing, just setting up like the niece of Ben Urich. We're putting all the people in place for this season. We're putting Karen Page. Now, I don't know if we're going to see Karen anymore in the season. I don't remember if there's any more shots of her that we haven't seen from the trailer. We haven't seen in these like 2 episodes. But she's like literally not even living in the city anymore. So I'm sure we'll see more of her like in the show. I think they're doing season 2. But for season 1, I don't know how much of a role she'll have. It would suck to not have her in the show like as much. But right now, she's not really around all that much at all. But right now, Matt Murdock is kind of surrounded by a bunch of newer characters. He's even got a new friend that's helping him out as well that did see him as Daredevil after Foggy died. So he's got himself surrounded by a bunch of new characters, except for Wilson Fisk, of course. And they're fine. They're fine new characters. I would like to see Karen back as well, more significantly. So, again, we'll have to see how it goes. We're obviously getting Frank Castle back, so that'll be cool to see. But I'm liking it so far. It feels pretty connected, but it also feels new. It doesn't feel like what a season 4 of Daredevil would have been. But it feels like it's trying its best to be connected and still show you that this is like kind of the same world, the same characters, but it's also something new. Like we're in a new world now. It's going to feel a little different. We got a bunch of new characters. We're going to kill off one of our big main characters, and this is the new kind of Daredevil world that we're now in. We got Kingpin again, though. It's kind of the old, a little bit of the new, and I'm liking it so far. I think it's actually pretty good. So, I mean, I've seen some pretty bad Marvel shows on Disney Plus, and this is definitely not one of them so far. I am enjoying it quite a bit, and I'm glad they're just letting it get dark and dirty. I'm really glad that they didn't tone down any violence. I think it's like rated mature R, whatever the rating is for this show. I don't know what they do for the ratings on the show, but it's definitely like a rated R-ish show. It's definitely pretty serious so far, and I'm glad they're keeping it that way because it perfectly works for Daredevil. So yeah, I'm enjoying the whole Daredevil run. Again, Daredevil for me so far has been pretty damn new. I only just watched the show in the past month, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I'm looking forward to covering this show. Marvel has been a lot of ups and downs the last several years now. And I'm hoping that this is one of the big highlights for the first time in a while. Because I've seen a lot of people talking about that this looks really good. And I thought it looked really good from the trailer. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a chance. I'll watch the show, the original show. And then I'll watch this one to see how I feel. And so far, I am enjoying it quite a bit. So, and I don't feel like I need to watch like Echo or Hawkeye again to really understand where Kingpin is. I think they're just kind of like making it a continuation of just Daredevil right now. And I like that. I do like that. So we'll see where episode 3 goes. Maybe Karen will, come back into the story at some point. I don't know when Frank's going to show up. I hope he doesn't have a really small role. I hope he's actually got a significant role, at least for like an episode or two. That would be fun. But right now we're just getting to the beginning of it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So we'll see where episode 3 goes, but that is the beginning of Daredevil Born Again.